The baby was screaming. Victoria's hands were shaking, and Damien Cross stood in the doorway of her private studio at 4 in the morning, staring at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "What happened?" he asked quietly. Victoria looked up. Mascara streaked down her face, her perfectly tailored blouse wrinkled and stained with formula. "My sister died." The words hung in the air between them. "Christ," Damien breathed. "Tori, I am so sorry. Don't call me that." Her voice cracked. "Don't call me that, because that is what she called me, and she is gone, and I never called her back. And now I have her baby, and I don't know what I am doing." Damien stepped into the room, his eyes moving from Victoria to the infant in her arms. "How did you get a baby?" She appeared. Victoria's laugh was hollow, broken. "In my locked office, 43 floors up, biometric security. No one has access, except me. But somehow this baby was just lying there in my private library, crying like her heart was breaking, and I picked her up and found a letter." "What kind of letter?" "The kind that tells you your sister tried to reach out 6 months ago, and you were too busy closing a deal to call her back. The kind that tells you she is dead, and you are all her daughter has left. The kind that makes you realize everything you thought mattered is just emptiness." Damien moved closer, close enough that she could see the concern etched into his face. "Her name is Lily," Victoria whispered. "She is 4 months old. Her father won't acknowledge her. Elena's in-laws think she is proof of shame, and I am supposed to be her mother now. Me, the woman my sister called a beautiful empty building. You are not empty. How would you know?" Victoria's voice rose, startling the baby. "You don't know me, Damien. You know the version I let people see. The ruthless architect, the legacy-obsessed billionaire, the woman who cares more about historic buildings than actual human beings." Damien sat down on the floor beside her. "I know the woman who spends her lunch breaks sketching community centers for neighborhoods that can't afford architects. I know the woman who fights for preservation, even when it kills her profit margins. I know the woman who leaves anonymous donations to scholarships and pretends she doesn't have a heart." He paused. "I know you, Victoria, and I am in love with you." The confession stopped her breathing, but we will get to that part of the story in a moment. First, you need to understand how Victoria Ashford, one of Manhattan's most feared architects, ended up on the floor of her private studio at 4 in the morning, holding a baby that shouldn't exist, being confronted by a man she had spent 6 months trying not to love. Because this isn't just about a mysterious baby appearing in a locked room. This is about what happens when everything you have built to protect yourself gets demolished in a single night. This is about the moment you have to choose between the life you constructed and the life you were meant to live. Before we go deeper into what happened that night, and trust me, you won't believe where this goes, do me a favor. Hit that like button if you are ready for a story about second chances and impossible choices. And subscribe to Mr. David Love Stories, because we are just getting started. Turn on those notifications. You are going to want to see how this ends. Now let me take you back to where it all began. 3 hours before the baby, 3 hours before Damien's confession, 3 hours before Victoria's perfectly controlled world shattered into 1,000 unfixable pieces. The rain had not stopped for 3 days. Victoria Ashford stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her private studio on the 43rd floor of Ashford Tower, watching water streak down the glass like the city itself was weeping. Below, Manhattan glittered with 1,000 reflections, each one distorted, each one fractured, beautiful in its brokenness. She pressed her palm against the cool glass. Somewhere out there, in one of those buildings, in one of those countless windows, people were celebrating. The Ashford Development Group had just secured the Riverside Heritage Project, the most prestigious architectural restoration in a decade. 18 months of brutal negotiations, 3 competing firms crushed beneath her perfectly calculated bids, and a board of directors who would finally stop questioning whether a 34-year-old woman could carry the weight of a legacy her grandfather had built with his bare hands. Victoria should have been celebrating too. Instead, she felt hollow. Her phone vibrated for the 17th time in an hour. She didn't need to look. Marcus, from legal, the contracts needed her signature. The press release awaited her approval. Her presence was required at the dinner her publicist had orchestrated, an intimate gathering of exactly 47 influential people who would toast to her genius while calculating how to use her success for their own ends. She turned away from the window. The studio was silent, except for the rain. This space, tucked away on the 43rd floor, belonged only to her, not to the company, not to the legacy, just her. The walls held sketches she had never shown anyone, buildings that would never be built, designs too honest, too raw, too much of her actual soul to ever let the world see. On her drafting table sat the rendering for the Riverside Project, a historic hospital from 1887, abandoned for 20 years, soon to be transformed into luxury condominiums. She had promised to preserve its bones, honor its history. The permits were approved, the investors satisfied, everything perfect. Except she couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to destroy something irreplaceable. "What would you have done?" she whispered to the empty room. Her grandfather had built the Ashford Group from nothing but debt and determination. He had survived economic crashes, hostile takeovers, and 3 betrayals by men he had called brothers. He had taught Victoria that buildings were more than steel and stone. They were memories made solid, dreams made real. But he had also taught her that sentiment didn't pay bills, didn't keep companies alive, didn't prove to a world of skeptical men that a woman could be ruthless enough to win. She had learned that lesson well, maybe too well. Victoria moved toward her desk, ready to sign away her conscience with elegant strokes of her pen, when she heard it, a sound, soft, small, impossible. She froze, her hand halfway to the light switch. There it was again, a tiny whimper, almost lost beneath the drumming rain. Her studio was locked. Biometric security. The elevator required her fingerprint and a code only she knew. No one could enter this space. No one ever had. The sound came from the alcove. Victoria's heart kicked against her ribs as she moved toward the arched doorway that led to her private library, a small room lined with architectural books and her grandfather's journals, a space she retreated to when the weight of everything threatened to crack her polished exterior. She pushed open the door. On the antique Persian rug, surrounded by fallen books, lay a baby, not sitting, not crawling, just lying there, maybe 4 months old, wrapped in a blanket so worn it was nearly transparent. The baby's face was red from crying, tiny fists clenched, eyes squeezed shut. Victoria's mind went blank. What? The word came out as barely a breath. The baby's eyes opened, dark, deep, startlingly aware. The crying stopped. For one impossible moment, they simply stared at each other. Then the baby's face crumpled again, and a wail filled the small room. Desperate, heartbroken, the sound of someone who had been alone too long. Something in Victoria's chest split open. She dropped to her knees without thinking, her hands reaching for the baby before her rational mind could interfere. The moment she lifted the small body into her arms, the crying stuttered, hiccuped, and softened into shuddering breaths. "Shh," Victoria heard herself whisper. "Shh, I've got you." The baby was so light, fragile, real, very, impossibly real. Victoria cradled the small head against her shoulder, her hand spanning the entire tiny back. The baby's breathing gradually steadied. Little fingers clutched at the silk of her blouse. "How did you get here?" Victoria murmured, her voice shaking. "How is this possible?" The baby made a small sound, not quite a coo, more like a sigh of relief. Victoria's eyes swept the room. The window was sealed, 43 stories above the street. The door had been locked. There was no rational explanation, and yet, here was a baby. Here was a child who needed her. Here was something so far beyond her control, beyond her carefully constructed world, that all she could do was hold on and try not to shatter completely. She stood slowly, swaying instinctively the way she had seen mothers do, the way her own mother had held her sister before everything fell apart. Victoria carried the baby back into the main studio, her mind racing through possibilities. Someone on her staff? Impossible. A break-in? The security system would have alerted her. A message? A threat? But the baby wasn't a message. The baby was just a baby. Dirty, underfed, exhausted, abandoned. Victoria's throat tightened. She knew what that felt like. The specific loneliness of being left behind. "Okay," she said quietly, more to herself than the baby. "Okay, we are going to figure this out." The baby's eyes had drifted closed, tiny body finally relaxing in her arms. Trust. Absolute and terrifying. Victoria reached for her phone with her free hand, ready to call security, the police. Someone who could handle this. Someone who knew what to do with mysterious babies appearing in locked rooms. And then she saw it, tucked into the folds of the worn blanket, a small envelope. Her hand trembled as she pulled it free. The paper was aged, yellowed. On the front, written in handwriting she had not seen in 15 years, was a single word: Tori. Only one person had ever called her that. The phone slipped from her fingers. Victoria sat down hard on the floor, the baby still cradled against her chest. Her hands shook as she opened the envelope. The letter inside was written on the same aged paper, the handwriting shaky, written by someone who knew time was running out. She read the first line, and the world tilted. Tori, if you are reading this, then I didn't make it. Elena. Her sister's name was a knife in her chest. I am sorry. I am sorry for so many things, but mostly I am sorry that I couldn't be the sister you deserved. I made choices I can't unmake, but Lily deserves better than my mistakes. Lily. The baby in her arms had a name. Her father won't acknowledge her. My in-laws think she is proof of my shame. I have no one else. No one I trust. No one except you. Victoria's vision blurred. She blinked hard, but the tears came anyway. I know I have no right to ask. I know what I did, how I left, the things I said, but Lily is innocent. And you, despite everything I accused you of, you have the biggest heart of anyone I have ever known. You just learned to hide it. The words were destroying her. If something happens to me, the lawyer has instructions. Lily goes to you. Please don't let her grow up thinking she wasn't wanted. Please don't let her disappear. Victoria's breath came in ragged gasps. I never stopped loving you, little sister. I was just too proud to admit I was wrong. Elena. The signature was barely legible. Victoria stared at the letter, reading it again and again, trying to make the words mean something different, trying to rewind time, trying to undo 5 years of silence and pride and hurt feelings that had kept her from her sister. Elena was dead. Brilliant, reckless, furious Elena, who had screamed at Victoria 5 years ago, calling her heartless, soulless, a corporate machine wearing their grandfather's name like stolen valor. Elena, who had walked out of Victoria's life and never looked back. Elena, who had disappeared into a marriage Victoria had warned her against. Elena, who had tried to call 6 months ago. The memory hit Victoria like a physical blow. She had been in Tokyo, closing the Riverside deal. Her phone had rung, Elena's name on the screen. The first time in 4.5 years, and Victoria had let it go to voicemail. Too busy, too important, too proud to be the one who answered first. She had told herself she would call back later, after the meeting, after the celebration, after she had proven to everyone, including her ghost of a sister, that she was successful beyond measure. She never called back, and now Elena was gone. The guilt was a physical weight, pressing down on her chest until she couldn't breathe. She looked down at Lily, at this small, impossible gift her sister had trusted her with. I am so sorry, Victoria whispered. Elena, I am so sorry. I should have answered. I should have tried harder. I should have been the bigger person. I should have. The words broke into sobs. She held Lily tighter. This baby who was the last piece of her sister. This innocent child who had done nothing wrong but be born into a tragedy. This small human who now had no one but Victoria. Victoria, who didn't know how to be warm, who had built walls so high she had forgotten what it felt like to let someone in, who had spent 5 years proving her sister wrong by accomplishing everything, while feeling nothing. And the worst part, Elena had been right. Victoria was hollow, a beautiful empty building, all impressive facade and echoing interior. Success without substance. Achievement without meaning. She looked around her studio, at the awards lining the shelves, at the renderings of projects that had made her rich and respected, at the evidence of a life spent building everything except what mattered. What am I supposed to do? She asked the silent room. How am I supposed to be someone's mother when I don't even know how to be human anymore? Lily stirred in her arms, making a soft sound, and Victoria made a decision. She didn't know if it was the right one. She didn't know if she was capable of what came next, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would not let Lily disappear. She would not let this baby grow up thinking she wasn't wanted. She would not fail Elena again, even if it meant demolishing everything she had built, even if it meant admitting her sister was right, even if it meant becoming someone completely different. The sound of the private elevator interrupted her spiral. Victoria's head snapped up. No one had access to this floor. No one except. The elevator doors opened. Damien Cross stepped out, his dark hair damp from rain, his expression shifting from concern to complete shock as he took in the scene before him. Victoria, what? He stopped. Is that a baby? And that is how we got here. To 4 a.m. To Victoria on the floor, mascara streaked, holding her dead sister's infant. To Damien Cross, architectural genius and the man who had been circling Victoria's defenses for 6 months, standing in the doorway of her most private space. To the conversation that would change everything. If you have ever felt like your life was falling apart and coming together at the same time, if you have ever had a moment where everything you thought you knew got turned upside down, drop a comment below. Tell me about it. You are not alone. And maybe, like Victoria, you will discover that sometimes the breaking is actually the beginning. Now keep watching, because what Damien says next, what Victoria chooses, it is going to surprise you. How did you get past security? Victoria asked, her voice raw. You gave me access, remember? After that night, you called me at 2 a.m. because you couldn't solve the load-bearing problem on the Riverside design. Damien moved closer, his footsteps soft on the hardwood. That night, when you were weak enough to need someone, when I showed up with coffee and calculations and stayed until dawn. Victoria remembered. She remembered the almost kiss, the moment when Damien had looked at her like she was more than her accomplishments, the moment she had almost let herself want something beyond success. That was different, Victoria said quietly. Was it? Damien stopped a few feet away, his eyes moving between her and the baby. Victoria, what happened? My sister died. The words came out flat, emotionless. She had been saying them in her head for the past hour, trying to make them real, trying to feel something other than this strange numbness. Christ, Damien's voice changed completely. Tori, don't call me that. The sharpness in her voice surprised them both. Silence stretched between them. Then, Damien did something unexpected. He sat down on the floor beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. He didn't try to fill the quiet with empty condolences. He just stayed. After a long moment, Victoria spoke again. I had not talked to her in 5 years. She married someone I told her was dangerous. Adrian Blackwell, old money, charming smile, controlling hands. She said I was jealous, said I was incapable of love, said I had turned into everything our grandfather feared, successful, but hollow. Her voice cracked. She wasn't wrong. You are not hollow, Damien said quietly. You don't know me well enough to say that, don't I? Damien turned to look at her. I know the woman who spends her lunch breaks sketching community centers for underserved neighborhoods. I know the woman who fights for historic preservation even when it is not profitable. I know the woman who leaves anonymous donations to architectural scholarships because she remembers what it was like to need help and be too proud to ask for it. Victoria stared at him. How do you know about that? I pay attention. He paused. I have been paying attention to you for a very long time. The baby, Victoria whispered, needing to change the subject before she completely fell apart. Her name is Lily. She is my niece. Elena left her to me. She appeared. Here? Somehow. I don't know how. A lawyer, I assume, following Elena's instructions, but she gestured helplessly at the impossible situation. The door was locked. The security was armed. And suddenly, there was just a baby lying in my library, crying like her heart was breaking. Damien's gaze moved to Lily, and something in his face softened. She is beautiful. She is terrifying. Victoria looked down at the sleeping infant. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be someone's mother. I can barely manage to be a functional human being. How am I supposed to raise a child? I don't think anyone knows how, not at first. You sound very confident for someone who doesn't have children. I have 3 nieces. I have learned a few things. Damien paused. Also, I am very good at structural support, which seems relevant. Despite everything, Victoria smiled. Are you comparing childcare to architecture? Everything is architecture if you think about it properly. Foundation, support, room to grow, planning for stress points. This time her laugh was real, and it felt like breaking through ice, like air rushing into lungs that had been holding their breath for years. Lily stirred, making a small sound. Victoria tensed immediately. "She is just dreaming," Damien said softly. "It is okay. How do you know?" "Because you are here. She is safe." The simple faith in those words undid something in Victoria. The tears came again, quiet and cleansing, washing away years of carefully maintained control. Damien's hand found hers in the space between them. His fingers laced through hers, warm and solid and real. "You are not alone in this," he said. "Why are you here, Damien? Really?" He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was carefully neutral. "Marcus called me, said you weren't answering, weren't at the celebration. He was worried. So you came to check on your competition." "I came to check on the woman I am in love with." The words hung in the air between them, impossible to take back. Victoria's breath caught. "What?" Damien didn't look at her, kept his eyes on their joined hands. "I know the timing is terrible. I know you are dealing with—" He gestured at everything. "All of this. But I am tired of pretending that our late-night design sessions and arguments about fenestration are purely professional. I am tired of leaving your studio before I do something stupid, like tell you that you are the most extraordinary person I have ever met. Damien, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know, because whatever happens next, whatever you need, I am here. Not as your competitor, not as a colleague, as someone who sees you, all of you, and is not afraid." Victoria stared at him, this brilliant, infuriating, impossible man, who had somehow become essential when she wasn't paying attention. "You should be afraid. I am about to become a single parent to a 4-month-old, with no idea what I am doing. My life is about to implode. The board is going to have opinions. The press is going to have a field day. I am going to fail at this. You have never failed at anything. I failed, Elena." The words were barely a whisper. "She tried to call me 6 months ago. I was in Tokyo closing the Riverside deal. I saw her name on my phone, and I let it go to voicemail. I told myself I would call back later, after I proved to everyone, including her, that I was successful beyond measure." Her voice broke. "I never called back, and now she is gone, and all I have is this letter telling me I have the biggest heart of anyone she has ever known. I just learned to hide it." The sobs came harder now. Damien pulled her against his side, careful not to disturb Lily. "You loved Elena. She made her own choices. You are not responsible for her tragedy. You are responsible for Lily's future. And knowing you, that little girl, just won the lottery. You have entirely too much faith in me. Someone has to." "You certainly don't." Before Victoria could respond, Lily woke with a whimper that quickly escalated toward a cry. Victoria moved instinctively, adjusting the baby in her arms, swaying gently. "Hey, sweet girl," she murmured. "I have got you." Lily's crying intensified, little face scrunching in distress. "She is probably hungry," Damien said, already pulling out his phone. "There is an all-night pharmacy 6 blocks away. They will have formula, bottles, diapers. Give me a list." "You don't have to." "Victoria." He met her eyes, and the intensity there stole her breath. "I meant what I said. I am here. Let me help." For the first time in her adult life, Victoria did something that felt more terrifying than any business deal, any high-stakes negotiation, any public presentation. She let someone in. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." 3 hours later, Victoria's pristine studio looked like a disaster zone. Bottles in various stages of use covered the drafting table. Diapers and baby wipes formed a small mountain near the window. Lily's worn blanket had been replaced with a soft new one that Damien had somehow procured, along with enough supplies to care for a small army of infants. And Victoria, immaculate, controlled, untouchable Victoria Ashford, sat on the floor in her rumpled designer blouse, hair escaping its perfect twist, watching Damien Bottle feed her niece with surprising competence. "You are good at this," she observed. "I told you. 3 nieces. My sister used to call me her secret weapon." He glanced up, smiling. "Also, Lily is very forgiving. She doesn't care that I have no idea what I am doing. She just cares that someone is trying." Victoria's chest tightened. "I should call the lawyer, figure out the legal situation, make arrangements." At 4 in the morning? She stopped, lost. I should be doing something more than sitting here. You are processing. That is something. I don't have time to process. I have the Riverside signing today. Technically in 5 hours. I have the board meeting on Thursday. I have investors expecting returns and a publicist who has planned 17 media appearances and a reputation as someone who doesn't let personal issues interfere with business. A baby who needs you more than any of that, Damien said quietly. I can't just walk away from everything. I am not suggesting you do, but maybe. Damien hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Maybe this is a chance to reconsider what everything means. What is that supposed to mean? The Riverside project. You hate it. Victoria's spine stiffened. That is not. Victoria, Damien's voice was gentle but firm. I have seen your designs. I know what you are capable of when you are passionate about something. The Riverside proposal? It is competent, profitable, safe. It is everything you think you should be. He met her eyes. It is not who you are. You don't know who I am, don't I? I have seen your private sketches, the ones you don't show anyone. At her sharp look, he added, they were on your desk last month when I came to discuss the Hartley project. I didn't snoop, but I saw enough to know that you are hiding your real vision behind what you think your grandfather's legacy demands. Those sketches are fantasies. They are not practical. They are magnificent. They are buildings with souls. They are what you would create if you were not so afraid of proving your sister right. The accusation hit its mark. Victoria flinched. That is not fair, isn't it? Elena said you were hollow, and you have spent 5 years making sure she was wrong by accomplishing everything while feeling nothing. Look at yourself, Tori. You just secured the deal of your career, and all you feel is empty. Stop it. Why? Because it is true. Because you are finally confronting the fact that you have been living for a ghost, your grandfather's memory, instead of your own dreams. My grandfather would be heartbroken to see you bury yourself in his legacy instead of building your own. Damien's voice softened. I knew him, remember? He came to my graduate thesis presentation. He told me that the only thing worse than failing was succeeding at something that did not matter. He said the buildings that changed the world were the ones designed by people brave enough to care. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. He said that to you? He said he saw that bravery in you, that you had a gift for designing spaces that made people feel seen. He was worried you would lose that trying to prove you were tough enough to survive his world. I can't believe he told you that. He loved you. He wanted you to be happy, not just successful. Damien paused. The Riverside Hospital. What do you really want to do with it? And there it was. The question she had been avoiding for 18 months. Victoria looked down at Lily, now sleeping peacefully in Damien's arms. This baby, who had appeared like a question mark in the center of her carefully controlled existence. This child who deserved to grow up in a world where people chose meaning over money, where buildings were designed for purpose instead of profit. I want to keep it as a hospital, Victoria whispered. A state-of-the-art community health center, research facilities, mental health services, obstetrics, pediatrics, everything that neighborhood needs and can't afford. I want to restore the original architecture and integrate modern systems. I want it to be what it was always meant to be, a place of healing. So do it. The board will revolt. The investors will pull out. I will lose millions. Probably. My reputation will take a hit. People will say I am soft, emotional, that I couldn't handle the pressure of being a woman in this industry. Definitely. I might lose the company. Maybe. Damien shifted Lily to his shoulder, patting her back with practiced ease. Or maybe you will build something that actually matters. Maybe you will prove that success and soul are not mutually exclusive. Maybe you will show Lily what it looks like to choose love over fear. Love over fear. Elena's letter echoed in her mind. You have the biggest heart of anyone I have ever known. You just learned to hide it. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. Help me, Victoria whispered. With what? All of it. The redesign. Lily, figuring out how to be human again. She looked at him. This man who had somehow become essential. Be my partner. In all of it. Damien's smile was sunrise breaking over ocean. I thought you would never ask. I am serious, Damien. If we do this, if we redesign Riverside as a community hospital, I need your expertise. Your vision, your ability to make impossible things structurally sound. I need me, he finished. You need me. Yes, the word came out barely audible. I need you. You have me. You have had me for months. I have just been waiting for you to be ready. I am terrified. Good. Damien stood, moving to sit beside Victoria on the floor, Lily cradled in his arms. Brave is what you do despite the fear. And right now, you are about to do the bravest thing you have ever done. What is that? Choose what you love over what you think you should be. Victoria looked at Lily, at this small person who had appeared like a miracle in a locked room. What if I choose wrong? What if I am not enough for her? What if you are? The possibility hung between them, terrifying and hopeful. Damien shifted, placing Lily gently in Victoria's arms. The baby settled immediately, making a contented sound that Victoria felt echo in her bones. Tell me about Elena, Damien said softly. And maybe it was exhaustion or grief, or the strange intimacy of 4 a.m. confessions, but Victoria found herself talking. She was 5 years older than me, wildly creative. She could look at a blank wall and see a mural, look at a broken neighborhood and see community. Our grandfather adored her, called her his little revolutionary. What happened? She fell in love with the wrong person. Adrian Blackwell. He was charming at first, wealthy family, impressive credentials, but he was controlling, possessive. By the time Elena realized what he was, she was pregnant and trapped. His family, they didn't want the scandal. They wanted her to disappear. And she came to you? She tried. Victoria's voice broke. 6 months ago. But I was closing the Riverside deal. I was in Tokyo proving to everyone that I was brilliant and ruthless and everything a woman in this industry has to be. And when my sister called, desperate and alone and probably terrified, I let it go to voicemail. You didn't know. I should have known. I should have tried harder after our fight. Should have pushed past the pride and the hurt feelings. Should have been the person our grandfather raised me to be. She looked down at Lily. Instead, I let 5 years pass. 5 years of silence. And now she is gone, and all I have is her daughter and a letter, and the crushing weight of knowing I failed the person who needed me most. Victoria, Damien's hand covered hers. You are not failing now. You are choosing her. You are choosing Lily. That matters. Does it? Does it erase the fact that I was not there when Elena needed me? No, but it honors her faith in you. She trusted you with the most precious thing in her world. She believed, despite everything, that you had the heart to love this baby. Are you going to prove her wrong? The question hung in the air. Victoria looked at Lily, at this innocent child who had done nothing but be born, who deserved a chance at a life filled with love and safety, and someone who chose her every single day. No, Victoria whispered. I am going to prove her right. And there, in a studio littered with baby supplies and abandoned architectural plans, with rain finally stopping outside and dawn beginning to break over the city, Damien kissed her. It was soft, careful, weighted with promise. It tasted like coffee and hope and the terrifying possibility of letting someone see every hidden part of her. When they broke apart, Victoria was crying again, but this time it felt like release. We are going to do this, she said. Not quite a question. We are going to do this, Damien confirmed. Lily chose that moment to wake, blinking up at them with solemn dark eyes. Elena's eyes, Victoria realized with a pang. Hello, sweet girl, Victoria murmured. Welcome to your new life. Fair warning, I have no idea what I am doing, but I promise to love you. I promise to choose you. I promise to be brave enough to be your mother. Lily's hand reached up, tiny fingers wrapping around Victoria's thumb, and Victoria understood, with absolute clarity, what Elena had known when she had written that letter. This was not a burden. This was a gift. A chance to become someone worth being, to build a life that mattered more than success, to let her hidden heart finally come home. Thank you, Victoria whispered to her sister, to the universe, to the mysterious forces that had brought Lily into a locked room at the exact moment Victoria's perfectly constructed world was ready to break open. Damien's arm tightened around her shoulders. The rain outside had stopped, and for the first time in 5 years, maybe in her entire life, Victoria Ashford felt something beyond the hollow ache of achievement. She felt whole. Here is the thing about real transformation. It costs everything you have been hiding behind. It demands that you demolish the walls you built to keep yourself safe. It asks you to risk the reputation you spent years constructing. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, it gives you something worth more than all of it. If this story is hitting you differently than you expected, if you are realizing that maybe you have been choosing safety over significance, go ahead and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Mr. David Love Stories, because you need to see what happens next. Turn on those notifications. We are about to get to the part where Victoria makes the choice that changes everything. Now, back to 6 months later, Victoria stood in the gutted shell of the Riverside Heritage Hospital, watching morning light stream through the original arched windows. The board had fought her redesign for 3 weeks. She had called an emergency meeting, walked in with Lily on her hip and architectural renderings under her arm, and she had told them the truth. This building deserves better than luxury condos, she had said. This neighborhood deserves better. And if we are going to call ourselves the Ashford Development Group, if we are going to claim my grandfather's legacy, then we need to build something that honors what he actually believed, that buildings should serve people, not profit margins. The board had been unmoved. So, Victoria had done the unthinkable. She had gone public, held a press conference in front of the hospital, stood in front of cameras with Lily on her hip, and no script, no publicist, no carefully constructed image, just the truth. My name is Victoria Ashford, she had begun. 6 months ago, my sister died. She left me her daughter, a 4-month-old baby who appeared in my locked office like a miracle I didn't know I needed. And that night, holding Lily, reading my sister's last words, I realized something. I have spent my entire career building impressive structures while feeling empty inside. I have been so afraid of being seen as weak or emotional or not ruthless enough that I forgot what my grandfather actually taught me, that the best buildings are the ones designed with love. She had gestured to the hospital behind her. This building was constructed in 1887 to serve the poorest neighborhood in Manhattan. For 60 years, it was a place of healing, a place where people who had nothing could receive care. Then, it was abandoned, left to rot, and I bought it with plans to turn it into luxury condominiums that would price out every single person this building was designed to serve. Her voice had broken. My sister told me I was a beautiful empty building, and she was right. But Lily, this baby, she gave me a chance to become something real, to build something that matters. So I am redesigning Riverside as a state-of-the-art community hospital, research facilities, mental health services, obstetrics, pediatrics, everything this neighborhood needs. I am going to restore the original architecture and prove that purpose and profit are not mutually exclusive. She had looked directly into the cameras. The board thinks I am making an emotional decision. They are right. I am choosing love over fear. I am choosing meaning over money. I am choosing to be the architect my grandfather hoped I would become, instead of the one I thought I had to be. And if that costs me the company, so be it. Some things matter more than success. The video had gone viral within hours. 4 million views in the first day. The comments had been overwhelming. People sharing their own stories of loss and transformation. Architects around the world reaching out to offer support. And then, the donations. Small amounts at first. $20, $50, $100, then larger ones. Foundations, medical groups, philanthropists who wanted to be part of something that mattered. Within a week, Victoria had more funding than the luxury condo project would have generated. Different funding, better funding, money attached to purpose instead of profit. Architectural firms had offered pro bono support. Engineering companies had donated expertise. The community had rallied in ways Victoria had never imagined. And the board? They had quietly backed down, because Victoria had done something they had not anticipated. She had reminded the world what the Ashford name actually meant. Not ruthless, not cold, but committed to building things that made the world better. Her reputation had shifted. No longer the ice queen of Manhattan architecture. Now she was the visionary who proved that caring was not weakness. Firms around the world were reaching out, asking if she would consult on projects that valued soul over square footage, asking if she could teach them how to design with purpose. And through it all, Damien had been there, partner in the redesign, partner in parenting, partner in the terrifying, exhilarating process of building a life that felt real. You are smiling. Victoria turned to find him standing in the doorway, Lily balanced on his shoulders, tiny hands tangled in his hair. The baby was 10 months old now, bigger, brighter, starting to babble real words. "I am happy," Victoria said, and the simple truth of it still startled her. Damien crossed to her, maneuvering through construction equipment until he stood close enough to kiss her temple. "It is a good look on you. Happiness or construction dust?" "Both." Lily reached for Victoria, and she took her daughter, because that is what Lily was now, legally and in every way that mattered, into her arms. "Mama," Lily babbled, the word still imperfect but the most beautiful sound Victoria had ever heard. "That is right, sweet girl. Mama is here." She looked around at the hospital taking shape, at the building being reborn as something honest and necessary, at Damien, who had taught her that love did not make you weak. It made you brave enough to be real. At Lily, who had appeared like a miracle in a locked room, demanding to be seen, refusing to let Victoria hide anymore. "Elena would be proud," Damien said softly. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes, but they did not hurt. "I hope so. I know so. You did not just give Lily a home. You gave yourself permission to come home too." Standing there in the ruins of something old being transformed into something new, Victoria understood that this, all of it, had been worth the breaking, because the only way to build something real was to first demolish the walls that kept you safe, but alone. She had torn down her defenses. She had let love in, and what she was building now, with Damien, with Lily, with every choice to value soul over success, was a life that would never be hollow, a life that would always, always be enough. "Come on," she said, shifting Lily to her hip and taking Damien's hand. "Let's go home." And as they walked out of the building together, architect, engineer, and the baby who had changed everything, Victoria sent a silent message to her sister. "I found it, Elena. My heart. It was hidden, but never gone. And I am going to teach Lily to keep hers visible, to be brave enough to love loudly, to build a life that matters. Thank you for trusting me with her. Thank you for saving me." The afternoon sun broke through the clouds as they stepped onto the street, painting everything in gold. Behind them, the Riverside Hospital stood waiting to be reborn. Ahead of them, a future built on love instead of fear stretched out like an invitation. And Victoria Ashford, no longer ruthless, no longer hollow, no longer hiding, walked toward it with her family beside her, finally, completely, whole. So here is my question for you. What are you hiding behind? What would it cost to choose what you love over what you think you should be? What walls have you built that are keeping you safe but alone? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that transformation is possible, that second chances are real, that love is always worth the risk, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because at Mr. David Love Stories, we are all about the moments that change everything. The babies that appear in locked rooms, the confessions at 4 in the morning, the choices that cost everything and give you back yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it is never too late to stop hiding, that success without soul is just expensive emptiness, that the bravest thing you can do is choose love over fear. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to Victoria's story. Thank you for being part of this community that believes in transformation and second chances in buildings, both literal and metaphorical, designed with love. I will see you in the next story. Until then, be brave enough to demolish your walls. Be honest enough to admit what matters. Be loving enough to choose it, even when it costs everything. This is Mr. David Love Stories. And this is what happens when a billionaire walks into her office and finds a baby. Then, the unthinkable happens. She becomes human again.